Today we are talking to you about what we would say the top 10 business agreements that one should consider or may need to consider when you are operating your own business. So, as a business owner, you'll probably spend many hours building your business, finding your clients, growing your team, and planning for the future. And so we would like to go through a number of documents that we consider as business solicitors to be quite important when you're looking at your business risk management. And the first one we want to talk about is a well-drafted client agreement. So this is really going to set up the expectations for when you're working with clients. And a clear agreement is obviously going to help prevent misunderstandings before then you needing to actually come and get further legal advice. And the main purpose of getting a lot of these documents drafted and prepared and in place and using them is that many business owners don't think about legal documents until a dispute actually arises. And by then, it's not a preventative measure. It's going to usually, shall I say, become quite an expensive and long-winded process of him to go through the dispute and trying to get it negotiated or at least somewhat resolved. And, as business owners, you don't have time for that, and nor do you want to be spending all of your hard-earned income and resources on having to deal with such things. So these documents are going to help prevent and at least minimize the risks of disputes arising. Now, the second one we're going to talk about is what we would call the terms and conditions documents. Now, this is, if you're regularly selling goods and services, then your terms and conditions are going to be one of your most valuable risk management tools. You can put them up on your website if that's how you do your business. If you're dealing with clients in a different way, you can have them available for clients to see at any time. And they really do need to be given to your clients, and your clients do need to acknowledge that they have read them, or at least acknowledge that they've been given those terms and conditions. Now, the third one we want to talk about is a shareholders or unit holders agreement. If your business is owned by more than one owner, then this document is very much essential. Without an agreement, it can become quite costly and difficult to resolve distribution of how you're going to distribute assets and income for the business to the other owners as well. Now, another one to consider, if you're operating the business in a partnership format, a partnership framework, then a partnership agreement is very important as well. So don't just rely on verbal understandings. Sometimes people can misinterpret things in different ways. Sometimes people can forget what was actually agreed upon and what the terms and conditions are. And, if it's in writing, then it's a document that both of you can at least go back to and refer to in the future. Fifth one, if you've got employees, employee agreements. Now, your employees should have written employment agreements, and clear documentation benefits both you as the employer and also the employee as well. And that's because it is supposed to be a rather reciprocal relationship. Now, the next one we'll talk about is contractor agreements. This is not going to apply to everyone, but not everyone working within your business is necessarily going to be an employee. And if they're not an employee, they're a contractor, then you need to have some really well-drafted contractor agreements. The next one is what we call as confidentiality or non-disclosure documents. So if you're sharing sensitive information with employees, contractors, investors, or potential purchasers, then confidentiality agreements can really help protect your business when it comes to that sensitive information. And whether it's, it could be client information, pricing, business trade, business secrets or trade secrets, business strategies. We're looking at protecting that confidential information. And it's so important because if that information is shared, then a dispute may arise, or it may mean that those kinds of secrets, if you could put them that way, are then shared with competitors or other people that you don't feel deserve to know them at that point in time. Now, another one is privacy policy and website terms. Most businesses these days have a website, so website terms are very important, and a lot of us are collecting information from many of stakeholders, and so we need to also have a privacy agreement. So you're going to have legal obligations anyway regarding how is information collected, stored, and used. And people that are engaging with your business, they want to know what their rights are also around that information. Now, if a properly drafted privacy policy and website terms are set up before you even really get the business up and running, it's really going to save you a lot of potential hassle later. It can really help build trust with your customers as well, and build a really supportive legal compliance framework for your business. Now, the next one we want to talk about is intellectual property documents. So your brand is often one of the most valuable assets that you may have, depending on what your business is. And protecting your intellectual property also helps preserve the value of your business as well. And the last one tends to be one that we see probably one of the least inquired about. Probably because a lot of people get caught up in the day-to-day operation of the business, and these kinds of documents can get put till later. We tend to see more clients who are maybe later stages in their life or have been operating a business for a number of years before they come to us speaking of these documents. However, they are important from day one, and that is things like business succession and powers of attorney. Because your ability to operate a business is not necessarily always impacted on how many years have you been operating a business or how old you are. Something can happen tomorrow and then you don't have the capacity to operate your business. You're still alive, but you could be in hospital, could be something going on there, etc. So, this is really about asking the question of what happens if I can't make decisions tomorrow, and having appropriate succession planning, enduring powers of attorneys, and where appropriate buy-sell arrangements can ensure that your business still continues during unexpected events. Now, if you're anything like me, you care about your clients, or if you call them your customers, you care about the people that you work with, care about the people that you're doing business with, you care about people that you're exchanging, your services and your goods with, and you wouldn't want your lack of ability to be able to make a decision because you've lost capacity be impacting those people to such an extent that it would if there wasn't someone that could then step into that role and be able to at least handle some of the day-to-day operations of the business, or at least pass it on to someone else that would have the ability to do so. So yes, the right legal documentation, it's not necessarily going to stop every challenge that you may come across. Every business is different. We're aware of that. But these kinds of documents can significantly reduce risk for many businesses. They also help provide clarity and help protect the business, that you've worked so hard for. So this is why, having quite a tailored approach is really important. And here at Oneness Lore, we can have a look at these documents for you, speak with you about what is absolutely necessary for you, and then we can go into drafting them for you and tailoring them and suiting them to your needs. What is it that you and your business need? What's important to you and your business? If you want to get in contact with us, our website is www.onennesslore.com.au. You can also reach out to us via email, info@onennesslore.com.au, and law is LORE. We'll speak with you soon.